It has been a long time since I have been. I feel like it's been like maybe 2 weeks um, since I've been live on the show or done a band report. So I decided to go live today because I had some things on my mind. And I'm sitting right here at work, just handling business, creating the things that I need to create for the job. And so at the same time, I decided to go live. So I'm actually gonna give a couple of seconds to give some people the chance to get in here. Um, it's been a while since I went live, so bear with me. But I do got some things on my mind I do want to talk about. So first things first, you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to go live is because man, it's Mardi Gras season, and man, shout out to Justin, man. If anybody has been out there following Justin, and I'm not just talking about from the Smash Time YouTube page, but on the social media pages, TikTok, Instagram, so on and so forth, man. You know, 100%, man. Justin has been out there getting it, and so I definitely want to um, send a shout out to Justin, man, from Smash Time. He's out there really getting it, man. He's living his life. He's eating when traveling, but he's out there in New Orleans. What's going on, Tina? Miss y'all. We need to do something do something quick because we need it. But no, man. So shout out to Justin, man. He's been out there in New Orleans just recording as much of the Mardi Gras as he possibly can. And I actually wanted to be able to come on today and talk about Mardi Gras, man. I've been seeing some interesting things. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about a couple of bands, one band in particular that right now is really making some noise, and it's not they're not new to the game, but they right now they the big talk of the town when it comes to Mardi Gras. um, and so I want to actually get a chance to talk about that too. What's going on, brother Johnson? Man, I it's been a while, man. We haven't I haven't so real quick I haven't done a news report, man, because like this week has been crazy, right? So like it's been absolutely nuts as far as the job is concerned. We've had a lot going on, and so I have not been able to get a news report out. But uh, we will be doing talk that I don't know. This week we have Music Educators Convention. Quan will be in um, San Antonio. And so because he'll be in San Antonio, I don't know if we'll be able to do it. I might be going out there. If I go, then we'll probably do something live from San Antonio from the Music Educators Convention, probably do some interviews and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, so Mardi Gras. Let's talk about Mardi Gras. First things first, I just want to say, as it relates to watching everything as it relates to Mardi Gras, one of the things that I appreciate every time Mardi Gras comes up, man, is just the excitement for kids and band, right? Like there's so much going on in other states, other cities. Like me and Quan have had this conversation before. Like we're losing music educators. A lot of people don't know that, right? The teacher shortage is real. Um, And I say that as a person who decided to step away from the classroom for whatever. And one of these days, I will share why I made the decision to step away from the classroom. Um, but I'm saying that as a person who stepped away from the classroom, and um, you know, again, the teacher shortage is real, and so we have a music educator shortage across the United States. Like that, it's a real thing. It's not something that's fabricated. It's not something that's made up. And so, for me, it's really dope to be able to see so many kids participate in just band and enjoy the energy and the camaraderie and the family that comes with band. Um, specifically as it relates to Mardi Gras, and you see it from across the board, right? And I know Southern has performed already. I know the videos from Southern is already coming out. Um, but again, you see it from across the board, from the high schools to the middle schools. And I've said it before, and I will continue to say it again. the culture as it relates to band in the city of New Orleans is just unmatched. Technically in Louisiana, period, right? But specifically in the city of New Orleans, man, you will never ever change that culture and that energy as it pertains to band. And so I think it's really dope to be able to see so many people and so many kids gravitate to that and just have the energy to want to do it. And I'm not even just talking about the musicians, the trumpet players, the clarinet players, the percussion. I'm talking about the dudes who be hitting the banner joints, be hitting them little 5, 6, 7, 8 steps, the baton twirlers, the dancers, the flags, the both guards actually. You have the young ladies who generally have the swing flags, and then you have the other ones who actually operate on poles. Pause. That's not what I meant. But you know what I meant. Um, so I think the culture and the energy for the fact that it's just alive in Louisiana and New Orleans um and Mardi Gras is just super dope. And I enjoy seeing it. I'm not even gonna talk about not in this moment, because I can get into the moment of, clarity, sound, articulation, and so on and so forth. I can get into that all day. But real talk, I'm not even here to have that conversation because just the beauty of being able to see so many kids participate in that in so many different parades, man. You have so many different parades that take place, and just to be able to see those kids participate, that's the dope thing for me. Um, now, um, let's talk real quick about Edna Carr. Uh, I've been watching Edna Carr for a while because I'm a J5 fan. I'm always say that. I'm a stick to my guns. I'm not changing that. Um, I am a J5 fan through and through. So I've been watching Edna Carr probably since before Nate was drum major. Um, and if y'all don't know Nate, Nate was a drum major at Edna Carr a lot of years back, and then he became drum major at J State, and then he eventually became the head drum major at J State. And then, if I'm not mistaken, um, and for me, I thought he was one of the most creative drum majors at J State in this more recent years. And then after him, I believe was Marvin. But nevertheless, um, Edna Carr's been killing it. Let's just call it let's just call it what it is, right? Um, the amount of people who the for me, it also looks like a numbers thing, right? Like I don't know if anybody has noticed or anything else like that, but from a numbers perspective, it looks like they got bigger. Um, but Edna Carr is absolutely, in my personal opinion, just killing it. I just watched the battle that they did. I can't remember the school that they did that battle against. And I was watching it as I was coming into work, and it's just from top to bottom. If I'm gonna just put it this way, if the percentage of kids who go from Edna Carr to Jackson State, if it's just 50%, Jackson State is in good hands for at least the next 5 to 6, 7 years, bro. It's 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 almost crazy, um, the amount of energy those kids are putting into what they're doing and the level that they're doing it at, right? It almost reminds me kind of back when I was in high school. Like I'm listening to these trumpets are if if the I'm gonna put it like this. If the level of talent of trumpet players across the board are equal to what I heard at Edna Carr and those kids at Edna Carr, I may have a change of heart when it comes to trumpets. I'm gonna say the trumpets will be back within the next, and I'm not just talking about Jackson because all those kids ain't going to Jackson. At least I don't think they all going to Jackson. Most of them probably are. So Jackson Trump Funk's gonna be fine. But if a lot of those kids start spreading across the countryside of HBCU's, dog, trumpets are back. Dog. Those kids are playing. Right, like let's just call it a spade a spade. Carr sounded better than St. Aug. I'm not gonna lie about that. Carr did sound better, but St. Aug don't sound bad though. And it's crazy because I'm gonna be real. This to me, in my personal opinion, was probably the best I've heard St. Aug in a minute. So and Louisiana bands right now are just coming up. I'm just gonna say it. I just what's it? The Roots of Music. The young they got they them. It's another. It was like a little charter school that I heard outside of Roots of Music. It's another school like it was like I think it was like a middle school or something like that. It was some kind of preparatory or charter dog. They was killing. I was like, golly. But here's my problem though. My problem is from a countryside perspective, like Louisiana by far is killing it. Mississippi, probably got some spurts here and there, Alabama, so on and so forth. But as the further you go down or up, depending on which way you go, like that energy is just not the same, right? Like right now, here in the state of Texas, um, and I'm just doing a quick comparison, right? Here in the state of Texas alone, Cedar Hill, um, Skyline, and this is just in the DFW area. Cedar Hill, Skyline, Townview, and I'm missing I'm missing one. I feel like I'm missing one. But for the most part, that's about 4 or 5 bands with numbers and production, right? But then, and that's not to say anything bad about anybody else in the work that they're doing, because I don't think that anybody else is doing bad. The work that you put in as an educator cannot be touched, right? But I'm just saying, from an energy perspective and a numbers perspective, and I also understand that in the state of Texas it may be a little different. But I'm just saying, like, where, what is it that in Louisiana, from the middle school perspective, from the middle school to the high school, gets these kids like massively energized for what they do? I mean, it's just when I watch them, it's when I'm watching these Mardi Gras, it's just amazing to me. Justin has a 40, was it a 45-minute or a 60-minute video, and you obviously you know what he does, but band, just bands, not college bands, just bands, high school, middle school of Mardi Gras bands. I don't you I, By and large, I don't see that happening in any other state. And to me, I don't even think it's about Mardi Gras, right? Because when I think about holiday parades, so on and so forth, Christmas parades, so on and so forth, um, you're not even getting that type of turnout. You're not getting that type of turnover, man. And for me, I just look at it like, again, I understand in Louisiana it's a culture of music. I get all of that. But there's something about that energy that is just unmatched. And we got to figure out across the board, across states to what it is that gets them there. I would love to see Georgia top 5 versus New Orleans top 5. That'll be dope. I mean, really, let's be real. I would like to see every state's top 5, right? Because right now, Georgia's top 5, um, Louisiana's top 5, or but that's a different thing, right? New Orleans by itself is just a city. We're not even talking about the state. So that's a whole different conversation. But if you just go New Orleans versus Georgia, um, I would say New Orleans top 5, Georgia's top 5. I would go so far as to say Mississippi's top 5. I probably no, Mississippi's probably top 3. Um, and I would say DFW's top 3. That'll be an interesting battle. That'll be very interesting. Them New Orleans kids are different. They was born with a mouthpiece and an instrument coming out of their mama. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. But again, my question then is, where are we missing in these other states? that we can provide for these kids from an early stage, right? Because let's keep it real. Um, these kids who are in these programs in Louisiana, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, so on and so forth, all these kids who are in these programs eventually end up going to somebody's university program. Now, let's also be very honest in the fact that we are also in different states. We also are relegated to certain things, certain judging criteria, certain things that we have to follow, certain rubrics. So I get all of those things, right? But my question still will be, these kids are born with it. How do we infect the rest of every state with that mindset and mentality? That's what I'm saying. So it's just history. My dad had parade battles in the 70s. True. But I had parade battles when I was in school. And it was a normal thing for me coming up. And I say that to say this. When I was in school, um, it was normal for my high school to battle Smiley, and this is just in the city of Houston. Smiley, Booker T, Worthen when they were a lot different. Um, Westbury wasn't a thing back then. Westbury is more popular now, um, under Brother Washington than back when I was in school. Westbury was more of a white band back then. Um, I feel like, oh, Madison. Um, so it was a thing back in the day. It's just now it's just different. Like it's completely changed. Um, it's completely changed in the sense that it's really interesting to be able to see how the dynamics of band in other states and other cities have changed. New Orleans is just, Louisiana, and I don't want to I don't want to. New Orleans is really kind of the mecca. Let's just keep it a buck. But Louisiana and anything that is around or the surrounding areas of New Orleans is kind of it's infectious in the state of Louisiana. Um, my mother went to Carroll High School back in the day. She played band at Carroll High School. She was in the band at Carroll High School, and I seen earlier videos of Carroll High School, and then I've seen more recent videos of Carroll High School, and it seemed that from what I could see, their program was really nice back in the day, and then it kind of fell off, and then now, they're really doing some good things. But by and large, again, the culture of band in Louisiana is just different. And my thing is, what do we do to get that culture, that infectious culture, across states? Um, but then again, I think a lot of it goes to how we teach kids, how we reach kids, right? And call me old. I'll be that guy. I had a conversation with my mom because she's an educator. Um, I don't know. I'm just not that guy who and shout out to him, man. I'm gonna give him his flowers, man. Joshua Robinson. If y'all don't know who Joshua Robinson is, man, young educator. He was one of my students when I was assistant at Central High School. In Beaumont. He went to Alcorn, graduated. He taught in Beaumont, and now he's out in Mississippi. Um, and man, he's done a great job with being able to communicate really well with the kids, being energetic with the kids. Um, and just getting them excited about band. But here's my problem, or here's my thoughts. I just think it's a young man's game. um I don't think that people, and this is just my perception, and I could be absolutely wrong. I don't think people my age who are not from a culture like New Orleans um has the tenacity. I ain't gonna say tenacity. Maybe the energy to put in like guys like Josh. You know what I'm saying? And I think that we're old school in our methods because that's the method that we came up under. And I think that can I think that that doesn't translate well to this younger generation. Stop taking the music funds out of schools and start promoting kids to join the music programs. Also, remember them Louisiana kids start playing in elementary. Yeah, fund, and that goes back to exactly what I was saying earlier. Funding in music education school or music or funding in music education in schools across states is completely leaving. Like, and not only are they leaving, but they're also taking directors out of the classroom, moving them in other directions, making them, leave the job, so on and so forth. Funding matters, right? And I think that that's something that we don't talk about very much, and maybe we need to have that conversation. As a matter of fact, that probably is a topic that we need to have. Funding matters, but I think, and I feel you, brother Dawson. One of the problems that we have right now is the fact that people in general in the world don't see the validity in music, and I think that for me is another issue, right? Because music is not a lucrative it's not a lucrative thing. It's just not. Music is not lucrative. You may What's going on, brother Moore? Um you may get, by and large, maybe 15% of the music community who are popular or who are making great money, but and I'm not talking about as a whole, right? Because we're not talking about our principal trumpet players and, you know the New York Philharmonic. We're not talking about that. We're talking about us, HBCU music education graduates, right? It's not a lucrative thing. So because it's not lucrative, people don't see the value in music, and so it's easier to pull the money away from music. And so when we start looking at it from that perspective, then we need to make a decision, or we need to think to ourselves, okay, how do we address the fact that music is an important thing, right? Because in my purview, music is not important just because of the fact that we play instruments and so on and so forth, right? Music is a part of our everyday life. Literally, we do not exist. This world does not exist without music. It just doesn't, right? So, and if you think about it from the smallest thing, when you wake up in the morning, 9 times out of 10, you're going to wake up in the morning singing some type of song, whether it's the song you heard last night, the song that you thought of in your dream, the gospel music that you were listening to, something. It can be a nursery rhyme. You wake up every morning with a song. You get in the shower with a song. And so because of that, we we don't even think about that aspect of it, right? And then we don't think about the fact that anything that we watch, anything that we do has music all around it. Let's even look at the Grammys. The chick who won New Artist of the Year, I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know who that chick is, but I know who she is. I know her song because of TikTok videos. TikTok wouldn't even be TikTok without the music that accompanies the TikToks. So if you go back even further, Tom and Jerry wouldn't be Tom and Jerry without the music behind it. But the problem is that we don't argue for those points. We try to argue for other points that we think are going to be relative to what admin want to hear, right? Which is, the argument that musicians or kids who are in band are more focused, and kids in band who are more disciplined, or kids who are in band, by past test scores a lot better. A lot of those things, if you've done the data and you've done the research, a lot of those things have been debunked, unfortunately. Um, but the thing that has not been debunked, that we generally don't argue, is the fact that music is all around us. So I don't know. Let me get to some of the. They focus on the test scores. They do focus on the test scores because test scores are money. I mean that That's true, right? Test scores equal money, and that goes back to the original question over the fact that music isn't lucrative. Um, you, I'm gonna come back to that because there's something else I got with that. They also have a lot of after school programs now. After school programs to me are a slap in the face. Making band an after school or music an after school program is such the biggest slap in the face. And I'm gonna tell you why in a second. If you ain't at the table, you can't eat. I don't know about that table concept. I've always had an inner struggle with myself about the table concept. And the reason why I've always had the inner struggle at the table concept is because the concept of being at the table is a pretty decent concept, right? But I always look bigger than that. Who calls the meeting for us to meet at the table? Who's the head person talking at the table? And if the head person that's talking at the table doesn't have the same interest as you can give as much information as you want to the people who are sitting at the table. But at the end of the day, there's only one person that calls the shots. That's no different than walking inside of a room in the Oval Office and you sit up there and you trying to put some stuff on the table. At the end of the day, the president's gonna make that decision. So it's good to be able to have that conversation. My thing is, if you at the table, instead of instead of being at the table trying to make demands, be at the table trying to get as much information that you as you can. Then take that information and you go and you flip it for yourself. That's my thing. Yes, it's cool to be at the table for people to see your face and to see who you are, but you learn more from being quiet and listening than trying to overtalk people at the table. That's why I've always had the biggest issue with the table concept is because of the fact that I would prefer to sit at the table and not say nothing. I want to hear what you're talking about. I want to see your body language. I want to see where your thought process is. And yes, you may that person at the table may say something that's very egregious. But I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna let you go ahead and try to cover yourself and cover your tracks from your egregious statement. I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna internalize it, and then I'm gonna flip it back on you. But I ain't gonna do it right then. I'm gonna just let you talk. So that's why I've always had the biggest issue with the table concept. So that's just where I am on it. Brother Moore, music is a world within itself, with a language we all understand, with an equal opportunity for all to sing, dance, and clap their hands. All right, thank you, Stevie. Um, but no, I mean, it is true. I mean, music is a. I mean, we know this. Music is a universal language. Um, but again, we haven't made the thought process of making it lucrative. And I was telling my dad this the other day. I think one of the issues that we have is we don't have professional marching bands. Think about it. If we had professional marching bands, and I'm not talking about the Ravens band and all that kind of stuff, because for me, that's just something that old dudes do to try to relive glory days or just to try to continue to be in some type of band. No, I'm talking about professional marching bands, right? You got the NFL, NBA. Kids have an opportunity to matriculate through all avenues of these things to try to make it to the NBA, right? The same thing I think needs to happen for marching bands. It's more visible. People love marching bands, and regardless of what you say, predominantly white institutions, um, HBCUs, because even in predominantly white institutions, we could try to make up as much arguments as we want to that we as a culture may think that they're boring or whatever. But I really think, or I don't think, they love a marching band. You ever watch Texas A&M? You watch people in that crowd watch Texas A&M. For a lot of us, I don't think it's boring. But for a lot of people, they think it's boring to watch that military style go up and down. Them people don't lead them stands. Them people do not lead them stands at all. Western Carolina University won a Sutler Award. They don't lead them stands. They love that band too. So just imagine if we had professional marching bands that at halftime at NFL games, um, first of all, you had to audition, like truly audition to be a part of it. There's a marching part to it. There's a playing part to it. that you have to truly, truly invest yourself in. Like that would make kids really want to work to try to get to the professional marching band league, which would give more visibility to band, and it would then spearhead to people to say, all right, we need to really invest in this. So I just think that's something that's the way I look at it. We are not valued because I mean it's the arts, right? And by and large, in the arts, we're not valued at all. Whether you are a painter, whether you are a musician, um, unless you go into like graphic design, and even in graphic design, unless doing CGI or some major company, you know, being a creative, I'm not going to say it limits you, but again, it's not lucrative. How would that work having a professional marching band? I mean, I kind of broke it down a little bit, but let's. The reason why I think it's important to think about it from that perspective is because if I'm not mistaken, I could have swore I just saw this. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was the NCAA that just or one university or something that just said that student athletes or the basketball players are now considered um, faculty. It was something like that, which allows them to be able to get more money. And then you have these NIL deals as well, right? Again, as I've said before, specifically on Talk That Talk and um, the band report, the fact that when it comes to HBCUs, the band is the most visible thing, but we don't get NILs. We don't get NILs because people don't find us to be important or valuable. If we have a professional marching band, then that means that our value goes up. So then saying, all right, X university, and I'll use Grambling, world fame, right? Grambling has been around the world, and that doesn't take away from Southern or anybody else because I know they've done things around the world too, right? But I'll just use Grambling because we always use Southern as an example. But I use Grambling. Grambling has been around the world. Imagine if Grambling had an NIL deal. Grambling, that band, those instruments, those uniforms have seen more countries and states than a 4-year basketball player in any university. But yet they don't get an NIL deal. Though we Prairie View has been on commercials, Southern has been in commercials, music videos, Grambling has, but there's no NIL deal. Make that make sense. But again, it's because it's not lucrative. So people use marching band as sorry, my phone was ringing, but people use marching band and people use band as a as almost a what's the word I'm looking for? Well, I guess you could say the jukebox. When at the table, it's best to have a strong advocate for you at the table. You should use the opportunity to persuade or lead others at the table to respect and support your needs. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Um, but I also think that being quiet, you learn the most. You know, it's always good to be able to. So using your thought process from what you just said, Brother Moore. If I go into the room and I sit at the table and I be quiet and I learn from everybody around there, then that means I have a chance to step away, build my argument, and then come back to the table and be able to advocate for myself. But if I go in there thinking I know everything, then I don't win, I lose. Because the truth of the matter is I have to be able to see, in order for me to be able to be successful, I have to be able to argue from every single perspective. And if I come in with only my perspective, then that means that my perspective is skewed and I don't have an argument. But if I go in there and I'm quiet and I just listen to everybody's perspective, then I have more data to put together to be able to argue and advocate for myself and advocate for the things that I need. A lot of people use the analogy of building your own table. That's cool, but in order to build your own table, you got to get the wood from somewhere. And again, how you gonna get the wood if you don't know who to go to get that wood? So I don't know. As far as the analogy with building, again, I've always been pulled in certain directions with that analogy. I seen that on Cam and Mace show. It is what it is. It's a lawsuit going on with the two states because of the NIL deal. Yeah, NIL deals makes players an employee and not students, which gives them a right to unions against the school they play for. Yep, you have to show your value added. How does music help increase um, success of students? Um, so brother Outlaw, no, I agree. Um, Give me 1 second because I still at the job. I agree um, with the idea that trying to show the value. Um, I agree with trying to show the value. The thing is, um, again, a lot of times from data, I'll say it like this. This is one thing y'all will learn about me. Data, I've learned with going through my master's degree and just listening and being very, very open to certain things, right? It's always great to collect data. It's always great to research. The problem that I have with data and research is that there's data that will be able to prove anything you want it to prove, right? I will give you an example. When COVID-19 hit, there was data that substantiated the argument that the vaccine, and I need to be careful with what I'm saying because I'm on YouTube, was good for you. But there was also data that also debunked that, right? Um, I'll give you another argument, and I can keep it to this. And like I said earlier, there was there was previous data years ago that stated that students who engaged in music education or band or whatever proved to have higher test scores, so on and so forth. But then there was data that came out and debunked that. And I ended up finding that data in my own research during my master's degree and when I had to present at TMEA for NAFME. Um, so I say all of that to say, you know, showing the value added, it can be true. You can show the value added. Unfortunately, there will always be someone who's going to find a way to find research or data to advocate against the things that you find important, right? So then the question becomes, how do you overcome that? This actually, what I'm about to say goes back to what I said or what we were talking about on one of our shows. It has to be a unified front. I think a lot of times, I think a lot of times we have multiple agendas. And I'm talking about from the band director, the music educator, the students, so on and so forth. And we have multiple agendas and we're not all on the same page with one thing. If we all made a decision to say, you know what, I'm not going to accept X, Y, and Z, and we all stuck to it, we would have more power than we realize. But I think because of the fact that we have multiple agendas, it 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 it, it doesn't prove it doesn't put us in a position to be as strong as we possibly could be. That's where our biggest issue is, right? I'm gonna take it back to the whole Mardi Gras New Orleans band thing. Hold on, let me read this. Totally agree. One must always to a listening ear. I didn't mean that to say go in and oh yeah. Okay, that's fair. But I'm gonna take it back to this New Orleans thing. I think another reason why those kids and the band culture in New Orleans and Louisiana is the way it is because they all have a common goal, right? All of their common goal really is to produce kids to play their instruments, crank up every now and then, and get them to college, right? And I think that honestly, oh, and get them off the streets too, right? Um, but I think that honestly, because that is a unified goal, it works for them. But then, here we go. You have a situation like we have here in the state of Texas, where you have music educators who are trying their best to get kids engaged, get kids involved. But then you have stuff like UIL who says that we have to follow a certain rubric. You have some people who are like, I ain't trying to work at nobody's middle school. I just want to get to the high school. You have some people who like, I ain't trying to work at the high school. I'm just trying to get to the university. You have some people who are like, I want these kids to be able to compete at the University of North Texas's and the UTs and all of these different schools when they step out. So you have so many multiple agendas that there is no cohesion. And then you got some of them that just like, look, I just want my kids to be able to crank up and then hopefully I can get them to college. So again, I think because you have so many multiple agendas, you know, Texas bands aren't, and I'm talking about inner city Texas bands. I'm not talking about all Texas bands because there's some bigger Texas bands that ain't black or the city that I live in right now has over 300 kids in their band program, and the chocolate percentage is maybe about 10%. My daughter's in the middle school band right now, percussion. So I I really think that in order for us to be able to get to where we have a cohesion and our band, our kids' interest look like the kids in the New Orleans and so on and so forth and the Louisianas, I really think that it causes we need to be more unified in the way that we come across and that we communicate to each other as being music educators. If the goal is to be able to find more value or more money or whatever, if the goal is to be able to find more value or more money or whatever in um, our schools and our music education programs, and I think that we need to band together to find a unified argument that works for every single one of us. If that's the goal, right? Um, if the game, if it's just to get these kids to crank up, then I think that we need to. I think that we need to find a unified goal, like real talk. I think that is ultimately the end all be all to that. No, my daughter does not play trumpet. I tried to get my daughter to play trumpet. She used to buzz on the mouthpiece when she was like 4 years old, and then she didn't want to do it no more. And then she tried flute, and then she tried trombone. She didn't want to do all of them. And then I pulled out the sticks and I showed it to her, and she said that's what she wanted to play, so that's what she plays. I'm gonna tell you right now, I am not. I am not going to push. And anybody out there listening, if you got kids, I am not going to force my kids into playing any instrument. The reason why is because I don't want them to resent it. If they want to do it, then they want to do it. It just kind of is what it is. Now I will assist them and coach them along the way, but I'm not going to force them to do it because I've seen so many people who try to force their kids to play in band because they were in band, and then the kid grows up and then they halfway do it or don't want to do it no more. No, it was because you force them into it. You know. So yeah, that's why my daughter plays percussion. But yeah. So getting back to this New Orleans thing, I'm really excited to just continue to look at the videos that I'm seeing. Again, I'm not talking about balance, blend, intonation, or any all of that because the truth of the matter is, and I guess I look at it from a different perspective slightly. The truth of the matter is because of the fact that I understand a lot of these kids are middle school kids. A lot of these kids are beginning high school kids. Some of them, been playing the instrument for 3, 4, or 5, or three, not 4 or 5 years. If you've been playing the instrument for 5 years in high school, that's a problem. Um, I, in this particular moment, I'm just excited for the energy that you know these kids are providing um, for the state of just the marching band. So that's where I am on that. Um, the other half of that, yeah, yeah. Come on, you going to TMEA? Maybe that energy will expand beyond the city. I pray it does. I pray that the energy does expand beyond the city. Um, but I hope it's also infectious as it relates to um, every state. Uh, you know, that's what my biggest thing is. I told you I'm at the job, so y'all gotta excuse me. But the other, I know who this is. What you need? Oh, my bad. But but oh yeah, I did see your presentation. Yep. I did see your presentation. I may not be there. I'm trying. I'm trying to get there. We'll see. I know the 757 drum lines. 757 drum line been good. Like, listen. Real talk. If I could have, and I gotta say this, if I could have my perfect band. See now I gotta be there if you mention in the show. Um, but if I can have my perfect band, if I'm starting with percussion, I'm getting percussionists from Virginia. That's just it. Just is what it is. Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta call a spade, right? Like if I'm going for a drummer, if I want to build my perfect band, I'm going straight to Virginia. There is no question about that. My drum line is coming straight from Virginia. And that's whether I want to use tonal or drop basses. It don't matter because I've seen I've seen guys matriculate from Virginia who are used to playing on tonal basses and then teaching drop bass um and still killing it. Um let's see. What did he say? I know 757 the drum lines. I'm talking about everybody. Oh. Uh um but yeah, so that's to me is just smart. But like real talk, if I want a trumpet player, I'm going to New Orleans. Now, if you would have caught me back when I was in high school, now if I want a trumpet player, I either would have went to New Orleans or Houston. But if I want a trumpet player, I'm going to New Orleans. If I want a tuba player, ooh, that's a hard one. That's a hard one. If I want a mellophone player, I'm probably gonna go to Mississippi. If I want a mellophone player, I ain't French horn is a whole different situation. Yeah, we struggling. I ain't gonna say yeah, we struggling when it comes to concert instruments. That's a whole different conversation. But we are struggling when it comes to concert instruments. I think if I want a woodwind player, I'm going to FAM. FAM or Norfolk. But I really think that I really think we are struggling when it comes to concert instruments, though. Um, just in the sense that I love the fact that we are able to do all these things from a marching band perspective, but I think by and large, when we start sitting down and we start, playing some concert literature, the fact that we don't have um, a adequate amount of French horn players, oboe players, bassoon players, you know, those things are really interesting to me when I start seeing that. Um, so yeah, I think I and can we stop playing Riot? Like seriously, I'm not trying to be funny. I don't want to. I don't want to change the subject from out of the marching band. Can we please stop playing Riot? Can we put that in the back, way in the back? Um, like seriously, to me that needs to be retired from HBCU bands repertoire. Uh, just like what you call it, big balling. Some versions of neck, because I know some people use neck as a spirit song that they've been doing for years, which is fine. But some schools just need to get rid of neck. Like neck needs to be over. Um, yeah, I think Ride needs to go too. But tubas from Atlanta, me, me. Luke, is that because our all city region and state symphonic musicians aren't attending HBCUs? Yeah, that that's the easiest answer you can have. Listen, while I'm here, because you're saying that, brother Moore, made me think about something. So first, if y'all don't know what he said, if y'all didn't read it, he said is that because our all city region and state symphonic musicians aren't attending HBCUs? Yes, most of the people, and I'm not saying they're all like that. So I am not an all person. I will never be an all person because of the fact that there are always outliers. There are always outliers. So I never will ever say that everybody's doing something, right? But by and large, yes, the answer to that is yes, because most of our all staters, all city, all region, whatever kids, by and large, don't come from our chocolate folk now. Don't necessarily come from our schools. And if they do come from our schools, some of them will go to HBCUs. A lot of them will go to HBCUs, but a lot of them, I've known a lot of them who just quit, or they go somewhere where their major services them better. So I've seen all staters, all city kids who are killing it, but then they don't go to HBCUs. They'll go to a predominantly white institution, major in like kinesiotherapy, but still be in the band. Um, so yeah, but to bring that point up, HBCU Band Directors Consortium. Um, my daughter's middle school has assessment in the next couple of weeks. Um, yeah, my daughter has an assessment like, well, she does obviously playing test every week. Um, but yeah, HBCU Band Directors Consortium. I want to bring this up because I think it is a major issue. The consortium is for us, by us, and we need to make a conscious effort to attend. Period, point blank. Right? I've been attending the consortium since I was an undergrad. Now, I attended it as an undergrad student, and I went last year. I had went years prior after I was an undergrad. So I had been going to the consortium for a while. We need to start attending that in droves. Okay. I love going to TMEA. Don't get me wrong. TMEA is to me is by far one of the best um um conventions, music educated conventions, you know, in the country. Obviously you have Midwest. Everybody loves Midwest. But my problem is we make all the abbreviations and all this kind of stuff to be able to go to these other situations and all that, but we don't do it for the thing that is for us by us. And then when we do decide to go, then we be like, well, this thing ain't like X, Y, and Z. Well, obviously it's not like X, Y, and Z because y'all not going. The reason why X, Y, and Z can be X, Y, and Z is because they have people and members who show up and pay to go. If you don't show up and pay to go, then you can't expect a major outcome. It's for us, by us, right? We need to start attending. I'm talking about all there's no reason why an HBCU band director shouldn't go. Um, that's just my personal opinion. Um, some of our districts want supporters going. That's new information to me. And that's interesting. Um, is that because you don't get the CPE credit? Um, I'm gonna assume that's why. Um, because that is very interesting because I know districts who will support people either going like when I was teaching, they told me straight up, you can either go to TMEA or you can go to Midwest. You can't go to both, which is that by itself to me is odd, but whatever. For them to not support you going to um consortium is really interesting. So I'm assuming it's probably because it doesn't give you CPE credit. But again, we got to start going, right? One reason why we should start going, listen, is because that is a way we can all get on the same page. If all of us are in the same room having the same discussion or having a discussion with one another, with people that we typically don't see unless we're across the field from them, that's how we all have the same, get into the same zone, the same mindset. Okay. We struggle to get approved for TMA. Midwest is no. Oh, wow. That's crazy. But then I got to remember what district you in too. That's a whole different district. What's going on, Chuck? Uh, I want to go ahead and give Chuck his flowers, man. He's doing great things over at Alabama A&M. But again, man, I want you guys to keep watching these kids from New Orleans. Um, let's keep supporting these kids. Let's keep supporting the directors, man. Because the truth of the matter is, I've seen so far, looking at Justin's videos, I've seen the same band performing like 4 or 5 different parades, bro. That's a lot, you know. But I understand why you do it. It gives the kids the availability to continue to perform and continue to put themselves out there. I think that's a beautiful thing. Um, so continue to support these directors who are out here, um, getting these kids out, making them active. Again, I told you guys a long time ago, I was a proponent one time of only concert band during the spring. At one time I was like that. But I'm not like that anymore. And I bless God for allowing me to be able to have this show, have this channel, so on and so forth, because a lot of people have educated me on things that I was just unaware of. So again, um, I think there's room and there's a lane for everything. Um, and again, I think it also is also based on the services of your interest. So with that being said, support these guys who are, out here doing this thing, who are marching, who are pouring into these kids. Absolutely 100% support these guys, support these students, because they're going to be in somebody's university band. Um, and it's just the honest to God truth. If you're getting ready for concert, sight reading, solo and ensemble, support those kids too. Or if one of those bands who are out there marching, they doing both. They're doing dual roles. They may have kids who are doing both. Support them too, um, because hey man, we got to continue to support each other in this thing, and that doesn't mean that you're above critique. Remember that. That doesn't mean you're above critique. Fair critique. Not just because that's your favorite band, and you just be like, man, they trash. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying critiquing fairly. Um, so yeah, looking forward to the consortium this year. Probably raising money under the perception of exposure for the program. That's true too. And I mean, but that's also an unfortunate truth, right? I have to do Mardi Gras in order to be able to support my program. Doesn't that seem like a slap in the face? I am a program that brings more attention to your school than anything, but I have to do Mardi Gras in order to be able to support this program. I wouldn't know about a lot of these schools. Listen, I ain't know what an Edna car was before I knew anything about the band. I can tell you that right now. I only knew about Kennedy High School in Louisiana because we played them. We did that Battle of the Bands my freshman year in high school. And I've been a Kennedy fan ever since. And I saw them in the parade not too long ago. I wouldn't have known what school a Landry was if it wasn't for band. So again, um, it's such a slap in the face of the fact that your program is the face of your school, and they have to do Mardi Gras in order for them to be able to be substantial and sustained. And that's not one Mardi Gras; that's multiple Mardi Gras. I remember doing Mardi Gras when I was a director, and I remember the money that came with it. But to be able to sustain, you got to do multiple. You got to do multiple. So yeah, man, it's gonna get better. I know it's gonna get better because I truly believe in who we are. I truly believe in us as a culture. With that being said, man, I completely stopped work to talk to y'all, bro. But with that being said, if I if I go to TMEA this week, I will either do a show or I will go live, um, or just be on the lookout. I may have like clips and stuff like that. I know Crystal still has her stuff that she has coming up. And then I will be back for Luke's band report, not this week, but next week, after we get out of this TMEA season. Again, we've just been really quiet because I've been having a lot going on at the job. And so I needed to take care of all that stuff first. It would be good for each of us to consider supporting a kid with private lessons to prepare to succeed at solo and ensemble. There are kids whose parents can't afford it. That's true. And while you're saying that, a lot of people don't. I've said it before, man. I want to say big shout out to Townview High School and the guys over there, Brother Gibson, James Gibson, my former student, as well as um, Brother Jerry Walker. Um, they allowing me to be able to come in and give the trumpets private lessons. And they've been doing that for about the last 3 weeks. And so I'm really proud. Yesterday they had this past week they had pre solo ensemble, and one of the trumpet kids told me that they got a one in in her solo. So I was really proud. So thank you guys. I want to tell them live. Thank you guys for opening your doors, allowing me to come and teach your kids. Them boys on Crucial Conflict be going crazy the last two. Oh, I know. Oh, I know. I absolutely know. I tell people all the time, man. I am not one of those kind of people who don't watch everybody. I try to watch and follow everybody as much as I can in the time constraints that I have. And they've been waiting for this time. So they having a good time. It's also a place where your kids get to showcase the final product of the marching band in New Orleans. That's true too. That's true. And I am a pure fan of being able to allow those kids to be able to perform and show off their work, right? It makes no sense that you work this hard than to not show off the work that you've put in. And again, I think regionally we're just different. In the state of Texas, when it comes to football games, our football games are a lot bigger. Even if you're at a smaller school or a smaller city or whatever, our football games are just massively different, and so it gets a lot more exposure, in my personal opinion, than the average school in other regions. And so that I agree with you, bro, Amos. Pre-festival is the key to success at festival. Yeah, absolutely. The kids need to be able to go and see what it's like to be in that room, get all those jitters out, and get the feedback from those judges. Both of those directors have a really good high school. They do, and I'm proud of Gibson and the work that he's doing. Um, I tell him, I support him in whatever way I can. Um, and also, Jerry, man, he's a good guy. Some good guys over there. But yeah, man. With that being said, man, again, we'll be back. Um, well, I'll be back on the band report next week. Um, Crystal should be either this week or next week as well. And then if I go to TMEA, I'm gonna go live, or I'm gonna find a way to go live, or we may have a show. Bro Reynolds, if I come, I gotta be in there, and I'll yeah, I'll be in there. I'll make sure I get in there. And check out your joint. I agree. Culturally, those parades are very important. Love it all. But want all the kids to experience band in all areas. Yeah, yeah. But again, Chuck, I agree with you. I agree with you, but I think it's regional. I think it's a regional thing, and I think it's based on the need, based on the need and the expectation of said regions. But we can get into that. We can get into that another time. I appreciate y'all. I got to get back to work because I got to get back to work. I got some stuff I need to finish. Appreciate y'all, and I got to eat lunch, man. But appreciate y'all. Love rocking with y'all. I appreciate everything you guys do, man. Again, we on a race to 1,000 subscribers. We at 820 right now, man. So go ahead and continue to pass this word along, get this stuff out, and make sure you get everybody subscribed to the channel, man. Love y'all. Peace.